Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Hope that you are fine. Here we are back again together in our story sessions. Today we are going to go through chapter number 9. Let me remind you with what happened at the end of chapter 8. But before reminding you, please go and bring your storybook, then open it on page 42. And then I'm going to wait for only 1 minute in order to wait for both of you, for all of you, sorry, in order to go and bring your storybook. Now here, what happened at the end of chapter 8 was that Nancy went to meet Mrs. Rose Maylie at the hotel, and then she told her everything about Max and Wagon, and she made, what can I say, she tried to make an appointment with her every Saturday night on the London Bridge. Now let's see what happened today. But before we start, please let me go through the main points on slide number 2. Oliver found Mr. Brownlow's house. Rose went to visit him and told him everything she knew from Nancy. Nancy met Mr. Brownlow and gave him the information about Wagon and Monks. Someone was following Nancy in the shadow. Now here, Mr. Brownlow, as you guessed exactly, is going to be the friend who will help Rose and Oliver Twist. Now Oliver was with Rose in London. Oliver had told Rose all about his life in London, all about Wagon and all about the gang and Mr. Brownlow, and how Mr. Brownlow had been very kind to him, and the situation that happened after taking the money and going to the bookstore to pay the bookstore owner and the books, and how he was kidnapped by Nancy and Bill Sykes and they got him back again to Wagon's house, and how they took the money out of him. The morning after Nancy's visit, Oliver ran into Rose's room. "I have seen him. I have seen Mr. Brownlow," Oliver cried. "I saw him going into his house. Thank God. I'm pleased we have found him and he can help us now. I shall visit him at once." Rose went to Pentonville in order to visit the kind old man, Mr. Brownlow, and then when she entered the house, she tried to break the ice with Mr. Brownlow, and she started to mention the name of Oliver Twist. And when Mr. Brownlow heard his name, he cried of surprise. "Oliver Twist, do you know Oliver Twist? Is he safe, this poor child? Is anything bad happened to him?" Then Rose told Mr. Brownlow everything about Oliver's story, starting from his life in London and what happened at the last night with Nancy. And she told him that she needs a friend in order to face these enemies. And then she gave him all the information that Mr. Brownlow will be in need in order to call the police or to tell the police in order to follow these criminals. "Until Sunday, you and Oliver must stay with me in order to make both of you safe." This is what Mr. Brownlow said to Rose Maylie, and he just invited her to stay in his house in order to be safe with Oliver. Because Rose also told Mr. Brownlow about what Oliver had seen through the window when he was about to sleep in chapter number 8. Sunday night came and the clock struck 11. Struck means tin, tin, something like this. Nancy, Wagon and Sykes were in Bill's house in Bethnal Green, and Nancy was now desperate with fear. Desperate means was shaking with fear, and Nancy got up from her chair and put on her hat. Wagon and Sykes looked at her in surprise, and they told her, "Where are you going, Nancy? What are you going to do this night?" "I don't know. I am ill. I need to go outside, and I wanted to have a walk or stroll around with myself." "Then put your head out of the window and breathe the air. Don't go out," Sykes said. But actually she didn't listen to what he was saying, and she said, "Now please let me go, Belle, just for an hour. I stayed all my life here with you in this very dirty and dark room, and now I am really very ill. I looked after you when you were ill, but please, now I am the one who is ill and who is the one who needs fresh air." Actually, Sykes pushed Nancy down into a chair, and she fought and cried for a long time. Then the clock struck 12. Immediately she became quiet. "Something wrong with you girl? Are you mad? Are you suffering with a psychology or a psychological problem? What are you doing? Why you are just 1 hour ago you were screaming and crying, and now you are feeling a little bit calm and stop crying?" Perhaps Nancy doesn't love Belle anymore, Vagan said to himself. If Belle finds out, he will kill her. Sykes is a dangerous man. I don't need him anymore. If Nancy hates Belle, perhaps I can get her to kill him. Vagan thought while he was staying and watching what happening around, he thought to himself that Bill Sykes became a terrible person and this is the time that he should kill him in order to remove him away from his life. And if Nancy stopped loving Bill and she is not loving him anymore, so he can use her in order to kill him. A week had passed. It was midnight on Sunday. Two people were on London Bridge. One of them was Nancy and she was walking up and down nervously. The other person was a boy. He was hiding in the shadows. A carriage stopped on the bridge and a young woman and a man got out and Nancy ran towards them. Of course, both of them, there were Mrs. Rose Maylie and Mr. Brownlow, and both of them were talking to Nancy in order to follow up what's happening with Vagan and with the enemies. But actually there wasn't the three, there were 4 persons on the bridge, but the boy was hiding around some of the trees and he was following Nancy in the shadows. You can't help me, Nancy answered. Mr. Brownlow, when he said, I will find that cruel criminal Bill Sykes and I'm going to let the police catch him. She said, no, Mr. Brownlow, it's too late. I'm not the one who's going to be safe now. I know quite well that one day they will murder me. And of course, that's not, I'm waiting to be rescued, but I want you please to save Oliver Twist. Then Mr. Brownlow said, we can help you to escape from them and start a new life. Nancy said, okay, I hate my life, but I can't change it now. Now I'm very old and I spent a lot of years doing the same thing, so I'm not the one who will be able to change now. Mr. Brownlow and Rose walked sadly back across the bridge and Nancy waited on the steps and she heard the carriage drive away. She walked quickly back to the poor street where she lived. Behind her, in the shadows also, the boy was following her. What do you think will happen to her? This what we'll know it in the next chapter. And this was the end of chapter number 9. Please move with me in slide number 3 in order to check what we are having for the oral questions in order to link all the events together. What did Rose tell Mr. Brownlow? Why did Nancy ask them to move away from the light? What did Nancy ask them to do? Who do you think was following Nancy in the shadow? What do you think will happen to Nancy when she go back home? Let's move to slide number 4 in order to check the questions. Are you afraid of the light? Mr. Brownlow asked quietly. I'm afraid of everything tonight, Nancy answered. I think I'm going to die very soon. I think they will murder me. They followed. This expression means that she was continue her speech and telling Mr. Brownlow, of course, that they will know very soon that she told Rose Maylie everything about Vagan and Toby and Sykes and the monks, and of course they will not let her alive. Nancy, they followed Nancy to the other end of the bridge and Nancy told them all that she know about monks. What does monks look like? Where the 2 houses of Bill Sykes and Vagan located and everything about them. Mr. Brownlow asked. He is a tall man, about 30 years old. Nancy helped him with this information, but he looks much older. His face is thin and wrinkled and his eyes are very dark and cruel. How can you help me? Asked Mr. Brownlow. Now, how can I help you? Mr. Brownlow asked Nancy, how can I help you? So Nancy answered, no, now you can't help me. It's too late. You must leave this evil man and start a new life. This is what Rose Maylie said. But she said, no, actually, it's too late for starting a new life. So Mr. Brownlow said, we can help you escape from them. You can leave the country. You can start a new life. And this was the end of this code. Please move with me to slide number 5 in order to check the question that we are having for today. Question number 1, why did Nancy want to go out at midnight? She wanted to meet Miss Rose Maylie on the Bridge of London as they agreed before. Describe monks, as Nancy said exactly. He is a tall man, about 30 years old, but he looks much older than this. His face is thin and wrinkled and his eyes were very dark and cruel. How can Mr. Brownlow help Nancy to change her life? What did he suggest in order to change her life? He said to her that he can help her in order to escape from those evil men and leave the country and start a new life as an honest lady, but she told him it was too late. Thank you so much. It was the end of chapter 9. It was a pleasure being with you today. Hope that you enjoyed the session exactly as I did. Thank you. I'm going to meet you back again in the next session. Thank you.